What is the Cursed Furina is currently under? If you don't know what I'm talking about, in the 4.1 Archon quest, Arlecchino revealed some interesting bits of information regarding Furina that I'll just play right now.
It's just as I guessed in the second before I struck. The hydronosis is not currently held by the archon. In fact, this archon doesn't seem like a god at all. And I sense that she's under some kind of curse.
The most interesting takeaway from this obviously being that she senses Furina is under some kind of curse and doesn't appear to be a god. Before we can answer what kind of curse Furina may be under, it's important to note the definition of a curse. Oxford Dictionary defines a curse as a solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something. As such, a curse appears to be placed on someone by someone else for one reason or another. In this regard, curses in Genshin Impact are nothing new. Such examples include Celestia cursing the Conrians to turn into hilly churls, also known as the Curse of the Wilderness, and Celestia cursing Dainsleif and others to be immortal, dubbed the Curse of Immortality. Yeah, bro, Celestia, them niggas going crazy up there, bro. They think they had coven or some shit. Celestia cursed all these people as a result of their sins. What their sins are still remains a bit murky, but we do know that this fits with the definition of cursed, as Dainsleif and the Hilly Churl's current situation remains as a result of the punishment laid unto them by Celestia. Now, circling back to Furina, what curse could she be under, and more importantly, who placed it on her? There's a theory that's going around that states that the Furina we know is not the god focalors. At least not entirely. The god focalors is in actuality the Oratrice Mechadagol on a Diurnal Cardinals, while the Furina we interact with is simply Furina putting on a show, you could say, to be the god focalors. So while focalors is Furina, Furina is not focalors. I have a whole other video that goes way more in depth into how this theory actually functions, but just for the sake of keeping this video short, man, that's all I got for you. There was an interesting bit of information that arose in the second conversation between Arlecchino and Furina. In it, Arlecchino states that someone is using the Oratrice to create mass amounts of indemnium.
Then allow me to jog your memory. Miss Furina, what is the purpose of your Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal? And what do you plan to do with the massive amounts of indemnitium that has accumulated over the years?
The Oratrice? It's just like it appears to be.
So you also have no idea. If I'm not mistaken, someone's using it to prepare for something. But unfortunately, it would seem that someone is not you, Miss Furina. I first caught wind of this when Linny tried to investigate the Oratrice in the Opera House. You see, even just getting close to the core contaminated him with an extremely large amount of indemnitium.
This could very well be the god Focalors creating all this indemnitium in an effort to avert the prophecy. Funnily enough, in the scene where Nervalet halts the primordial surge, he notes that this punishment is too severe and he must overrule it. The word indemnitium is really similar to the word indemnity. Nah, I gotta stop. I gotta pronounce these words correctly, otherwise someone's gonna get mad. Anyway, indemnity, which in legal terms is protection. So in a sense, it could be said that the Oratrice is creating indemnitium, or also known as protection, for the people from the punishment of death by the primordial sea. But, you know, this could just be a coincidence, but probably not. Circling back to Furina's curse, if the curse of Furina is in fact to be split in two, with her godly side containing the Gnosis and the Oratrice, then the question is who cursed her. Originally, I thought Furina did this to herself as a means to combat the prophecy, but in her conversations with Arlecchino, she seems really unsure of how to combat the prophecy, and she can often be seen feigning confidence.
Then I ask you, Miss Furina, just what have you been working on? Where can we see it, and what is it doing to help? Such as your emergency response plan for the impending disaster?
An emergency response plan?
As such, while the god Focalor could be in the Oratrice producing all this indemnitium or protection to protect the people from Fontaine, Furina actually doesn't know what the god Focalor is doing to combat the prophecy. She simply knows that she's doing something to combat the prophecy. This is all very confusing. However, given the new information that Furina is cursed, this implies someone else may have done this to her. The list of people capable enough to curse a god is really small. The only two entities I could think of are Nervalets and the Heavenly Principles. Starting with the most likely answer, the Heavenly Principles may have cursed Furina for a number of reasons, be it her friendship with Nervalets, who is now confirmed to be the Hydro Sovereign, or other reasons that have yet to come to light. From how Furina spoke to Nervalet in the past, it's likely she wasn't always how she was now and once carried this air of godliness around her.
You will see much in the human world, from the delightful to the depressing. And one day, when you have dwelt among humanity long enough, you will be placed to bring judgment over all as a spokesperson for Fontaine's past.
Another point to back up the Heavenly Principles being the ones to curse her is what Dainsleif said in the chapter preview.
God of justice lives for the spectacle of the courtroom, seeking to judge all other gods. But even she knows not to make an enemy of the divine.
It could be she knows not to make an enemy of the divine due to having already faced their wrath by having them split her in two. The only other person who's strong enough to have cursed her is Nervalet, and while it really makes no sense to me as to why he'd do it, I figured I'd mention it anyway. Nervalet, being the Hydro Sovereign, probably harbors some animosity towards the Archons. He called the Heavenly Principles usurpers, isn't really a nice term, and with the recent revelation that the Gnosis contain powers sealed from the original 7, it could be that he cursed Furina to separate her from the Gnosis in an effort to reclaim his lost power. But again, I feel like this whole thing sort of just falls apart when we hear this interaction with Nervalet.
None of the currently living dragon sovereigns in the world, myself included, possess our full dragonhood. They say that when the first usurper arrived on Tivat, they seized a part of the dragon's power. Today, that stolen power is the basis of the Archon's authorities.
There are 7 elemental Archons and 7 matching dragon sovereigns.
The dragon sovereign of water who lived through that era perished a long time ago. As their successor, I know far less of that part of our ancient history. In any case, I believe I will not be able to do much unless the Archon disappears and returns their elemental authority to me. Given the status quo, however, I would recommend finding another way to deal with the prophecy.
I mean, so yeah, it sounds like he himself has no idea where the Gnosis is, and it sounds like it might be a little complicated getting the power back from the Gnosis. Although I didn't mention it earlier, Furina could have just done this to herself, and it appeared like a curse to Arlecchino, who has an untrained eye. I don't know. But Furina is interesting for another reason, and that's that we have no idea what she is or where she came from. Even Arlecchino doesn't know. But miHoYo isn't really the greatest at explaining these things. For example, when we look at the origins of the other gods, Venti was once a wisp, okay. Zhongli is hinted to have once been an Adeptus, okay. We have absolutely no idea where A or Makoto came from or what they are. Nahida and the Greater Lord Rukkhadevata were avatars of Irminsul. And again, with Furina, we have no idea where she came from or what she is. But these are all topics for another time. So, in short, what's Furina's curse? Split down the middle like a freshly cut apple. Who cursed her? Probably Celestia, but it's up in the air.